Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks a lot for sticking around until the very bitter end. I will make sure to keep it a little bit easy. My name is Rins Jacobs. I'm taking care of strategic partnerships at Solaris Bank. What basically means is making sure that partners get what they want if it's not the standard that we have, meaning we have to develop something, there is something going on. So for the next hour and a half, I will tell you a little bit about the platform. No, it's just going to be a couple seconds or a couple minutes. First things first, what is Solaris Bank? Solaris Bank is a technology company first, but we're able to do things a little bit differently because we have a banking license. So from a regulatory perspective, you could say we are a bank, but that's not really how we see ourselves. We see ourselves as a tech company. We work in an agile way. We make sure that we follow our customers and really approach the lean model. And as you can see, we were quite successful in our seed round, in our Series A, where we got some very interesting investors, including investors from Asia that help us to move this product or the platform to other parts of the world. We've also passported our products to a couple different countries for digital banking, for payments, and we're working on the credit solution as well. And throughout the last year and a half or so, we have been building very hard to get a lot of talent on board, but making sure that it's not just talent from the tech companies or from the tech world and from the banking world, but making sure they fit together. Making sure that on the one hand, we have compliance trainings, which as a bank you're obligated to do, but also making sure that all those compliance people or accountants or office managers are able to work on the API, know the API, be able to create bank accounts on the API. So we have the API trainings and we have the compliance trainings to really make sure that people understand what the technology actually is all about. A little bit more about the people is a funny story. One, we were looking for a CTO, and that is that guy over there. We said it should be somebody who has never worked in a bank before, because otherwise you're just going to create a different bank. So we were really looking quite hard, and at the end of the day, we finally found Peter. And we have a lot of people who have worked on the intersection between e-commerce and banking, so they know what those guys are both looking for. A little bit about the problem that Solaris Bank is trying to solve is all about making sure that you can do contextual banking, that it's easy, that customers are not bothered by slow banks or slow transactions or all those things. And the main problems that we see is, on the one hand, you have the FinTechs, which is what we actually wanted to empower from the beginning, but also the digital companies. So the FinTechs have often the problem that they have very cool ideas, they have crazy ideas, but they don't have a license, or they don't really know how to deal with that in a compliant manner. So this is where Solaris Bank comes in, where we say, you know what, why don't you do all your crazy things, and we take care of the reporting and the liabilities, and so on and so on. On the other hand, you have the digital companies. And the digital companies, they know exactly what they need. They also often have regulatory problems, but that's not the main thing. They just want to make sure that the conversion of their products is very smooth. So this can be done through offering credits at the moment that they need it. But it could be by offering bank accounts that work in a little bit of a different way than what you usually see. And as an example, with AutoScout24, which is a classifieds portal for second-hand cars, is oftentimes when people are buying and selling cars, or when people are browsing through those websites, they might see a very interesting car, 10,000 euros or 10,000 pounds, I should say here, and they might not have it. And this is the exact moment when an AutoScout, in combination with Solaris Bank, should be able to say, you know what, we know that you like this car, why don't you take this 10,000 euros by just doing that in 7 minutes? Because this is where the customer needs it, and this is where he wants it, and this, it is interesting. AutoScout doesn't care about credits. They don't care about any financial products. They just want to make sure that those guys, that those customers have enough funds to actually get that product. And this is the kind of businesses that we try to empower by our APIs, by making sure we understand what they're looking for. How we do this is by solely focusing on those partners. So we are not a B2C company. We only work with the B2Bs, so to say. And our model is therefore B2B to X, whether that's a business at the end or whether that's an end customer at the end. And so we just provide APIs, which our partners can use to enable themselves to offer new products to their end customers. So that is all in theory, and that's all very nice, but what have we actually done to make that happen? So a little bit about the product and a little bit about how we try to make it easy for those guys to really do their business is by offering modular services. So on the one hand, you could say, you should take everything we have and that's it. Often companies don't really like that so much, so we say, why don't we chop them up into smaller pieces and make it very easy so they can say, just like in an app store, I take this from you, but I take this from myself, and I take this from a service provider, or a combination, or take everything from one piece. And that's why we say everything should be basically a Lego building block. And then we give out those Lego building blocks, and they can then decide if they want to build a boat, or a castle, or a train, as long as it is legally allowed. So this is where we are focusing on a lot to make sure that companies can do whatever they want. But of course, we also have more or less off-the-shelf products to make it easy, because you have those neobanks, because you have the companies that don't really care too much about the product itself, they just care about the result, which might not always be a financial product per se. So looking a little bit at the digital banking piece, there's a couple different partners that we have that say, you know what, we're actually very interested in the whole product, at least from a banking infrastructure perspective, such as the Pentas and the Half-Season and Contests of this world. Maybe you have heard of them. And we do this for SMEs as well. So we do the whole KYC process completely digital, and in a matter of minutes, a small business can get a bank account, and that's it. The same is for credit, where we just do a screen scraping of the transaction history. And because we do this, we know exactly not only what his cash flow is, but we know what his social demographic data is. We know if he has a house, we know if he has a kid, we know if he has a car because he maybe pays certain insurance for this. So that whole screening already consists of enough data that we can do a scoring. And this would allow us to do a scoring check in a matter of minutes. And in the beginning, we had a little bit of a problem with this because companies or end customers didn't really believe that it could be so fast. So we had to artificially put in a couple steps to make sure that the people actually thought, this computer is thinking this must be real. So sometimes you see that education still needs to happen a little bit, and the technology is sometimes a little bit too fast or too early adopted. Then a little bit more about the platform itself, which is of course the most interesting topic of today, is there are so many new use cases that can be leveraged by using a platform. So on the right side, you see all the partners that offer services to end customers. And on the left side, you talk about the service providers that Solaris Bank has integrated. And first things first is those partners that are on the right side, they shouldn't have to talk with the identification companies. They shouldn't have to talk to the card companies. They shouldn't have to talk to whatever other companies. So we make sure that all those different APIs that are out there are connected within the Solaris Bank platform, so that the partners only have to connect to our API. So that makes it very easy for them to integrate. They only have one contact point, they only have one API that they have to worry about, and thus it is a lot easier to set this up. And actually, our fastest onboarding for the digital banking guy was in a couple of weeks. So you could set up a neobank in a matter of weeks instead of months, what you see with some other banks. The second use case is that those partners, we now have about 50 of those live on our platform, they now start to see, okay, you're offering this and I'm offering this. What about we combine it in one way or another and create new synergies for this? So those interactions can happen quite easily because the fundamentals of being in the Solaris Bank environment are the same. So we know exactly what those customers are, so they just only have to connect to each other to create a new type of business, a new type of product, whatever you have. And then the third element is making use of the data that we are getting from all those guys. Everybody is familiar with this Facebook login method where you can just say login with Facebook. Why not create that for banking products? Why not say, I want to log in with this Solaris Bank KYC method, and because Solaris Bank already knows you, you don't have to do the KYC again. So this increases conversion, this increases flexibility, that increases customer experience, because the fundamentals are the same. And this is the same for certain transactions, if it's internal bookings. This is the same for potentially in the future when we're talking about cryptocurrencies, which obviously is a topic, so you have to mention it. We are very much in the process of this, and this platform piece is now only starting. Of course, in the beginning, you had to start with something, but now that you have quite a couple customers on there, you can see that there is an ecosystem. There's actually a community starting to rise, and that is where the future of platforms is, to really make sure that you create and foster communities and enable other companies to make new business. That's a little bit about Solaris Bank and about the future of banking as a platform, at least how we see it. If you want to have any discussion and see how we could do business together, just drop me a line and we'll see what happens. Thank you.